I'm so happy to be here with everyone today. Everybody happy? Everybody have a good time at WPC? Yeah. Woo! Have you all noticed the amount of detail that has gone into this event? Have you noticed that? All the things. You walk up the stairs and everything is branded for Microsoft and for Microsoft partners. Everything that you do, every place you go, every person you talk to is all about the customer experience. That's what this is all set up for, is to give you a feeling that you are part of something absolutely special, something that makes you feel really, really good. And frankly, Microsoft is not the only organization that actually focuses on a customer experience. The entertainment industry, frankly, was an industry that has been talking about and looking at the customer experience for a very long time. Last year, WPC was in Orlando, and we spent some time at the Hollywood studios. You notice all the attention to detail. What they're doing is they're focusing on two things. They're focusing on the head, and they're focusing on the heart. That's what they're doing. They're trying to get you, as a customer of Microsoft, as a partner of Microsoft, to actually feel something, and something very special. Another example is, can you tell I'm from New York? Can you tell? No, you couldn't tell. I went recently to a baseball game. The Mets were playing the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I went to Citi Field. Oh my God, talk about a customer experience. It was just absolutely amazing from the point of view of when you entered the parking lot and paid like $40 for parking. Now, that wasn't a great customer experience, I'm going to tell you. But everybody was there, all guaranteeing that you would have a great customer experience. As you walked in, even the people in security all welcomed you with a smile. This was purposeful. This was not something that was done by accident. This was something that was planned. When you went up and you actually went through, you went to the Jackie Robinson Rotunda, and you saw the history of the baseball team of the New York Mets. It was amazing. And then when you saw the game, in between innings, there were things going on. There were contests, all guaranteed to make a great customer experience. So you, as Microsoft partners, have to start thinking about making a great customer experience impression on your clients. And it's not just about giving great customer service. I'm going to tell you something right now, a secret between me and you. Everybody says they give great customer service. Everybody does that. The customer experience is something a lot more. And we are so lucky today to have two ISVs, member of our community, that are here, that are going to be able to tell you what their secrets are in terms of creating a good customer experience. So something I want you to do, if you have a Surface, or you have a tablet, or you have a piece of paper, some of us are old-fashioned, I would like you to get that out right now, because what you're going to get today from this distinguished panel, they look distinguished, don't they? You saw them on video. They're movie stars also, and they're much bigger than what they look over there, is you're going to get a paper full or a Surface full of great ideas so that you can take it back with you and you can make a difference in your business, just like these gentlemen have made a difference in their business. So I'd like everybody to give our warm WPC welcome to our two panelists, and I'm going to explain who the third person is, Ray Meiring and Nate Christie. Come on, we could do better than that. Yeah, we want to make them feel good. And and they're going to introduce themselves. And we're so lucky also to have Jennifer Tomlinson from Microsoft. We all know and love Jennifer. Hey, Lisa, how you doing back there? Woo! who has actually put this all together. So my name is Eric Rabinowitz. I am the CEO of Nurture Marketing, and I have the best job in the world today. And that job is I just get to sit back and ask these incredibly talented partners some questions that they're going to be able to answer and give you things that you can take back with you that's going to make a difference in your business. Because I'm going to tell you something, one secret right now, the customer experience will make a difference in how you sell, what you sell, and the growth of your business. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Okay. So I'm going to sit down here and we're going to start asking these questions. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
It's good to be here, right?
Yeah.
Was that a great introduction?
That was great. Thank you.
I tried. I mean, we did it in rehearsal, but I didn't do that part. You didn't ever hear me speak, right? All right. So I'm going to give you an opportunity right now to introduce yourself. So Nate, why don't you tell us all who you are?
Sure. I'm Nate Christie. I'm the head of marketing for a company called Automational, which is a small business technology company that combines marketing automation and CRM into one platform for small businesses. We typically work with companies that are about 2 to 20 employees in size. I've been in the SaaS and B2B space for about 15 years, almost consistently working with small businesses, helping them improve their business through marketing, but then also through using technology to find operational efficiencies.
Excellent. Ray?
Thanks, Nate. My name is Ray Meiring. I'm the CEO of Qorus Software. Qorus Software helps companies to be more efficient with business-critical documents. So when you're generating proposals, contracts, pitch decks, we really automate that process and help you to do it more efficiently. But really passionate about being here to talk about the customer experience, because it's been a great learning experience for ourselves, a great adjustment in our strategy, and it's made a huge impact on our business. So it's good to be here to be able to share that with you.
And by the way, everybody also is going to have the opportunity to ask questions as well at the end. We'll have plenty of time. So if you have questions, remember what we want you to do. The point of this session is for you to take things back with you so that you can make a difference. So, and these guys live the customer experience every day. So these are the guys to ask the questions. And remember, when you ask around for everybody, there's no such thing as a bad question. And your question probably is the same question as a lot of people have. And since we're all partners, we tend to share this information. It makes sense. What makes sense for one partner usually makes sense for another. Mm-hmm. So let's start the questioning out here. And we're just going to open it up with what does the customer experience mean to you, and how has it impacted the business? Nate, do you want to start?
Sure. So kind of by definition, and you alluded to it earlier, the customer experience is somewhat of a nebulous term, right? So in marketing, we spend a lot of time with metrics. We create the funnel from awareness and attraction to sale and onboarding and retention, et cetera. And we like to measure milestones and actions along the way we want you to take. But the customer experience, the customer journey is actually the aggregate of all of those experiences and sort of the glue in between that ultimately create a relationship between your brand and your customer. Or quite frankly, done poorly, doesn't create a relationship. Your story about going to the Mets game makes me think about there was probably someone who was in charge of parking. There was probably someone who was in charge of hot dogs. There's a general manager who's in charge of putting a quality competitive product out on the field that probably rarely interface with each other on the day-to-day, and they have their own metrics and their own objectives. The customer experience, if I asked you how was the Mets game, you would say it was fantastic from end to end. Yeah. So for us, as a company, as a small company ourselves, we sort of start with that definition of how do we create an end-to-end consistent experience that creates that journey, and not just think about milestones and metrics
you know
first.
What's amazing, and this is sort of a takeaway, price was not an issue. Isn't that kind of cool? Price was never an issue. I never questioned a $20 beer. Never.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Now I am.
Right.
But I never questioned a $20 beer or a hot dog that was $15. I mean, I never questioned that. So I mean, that's something that's if the customer experience is extraordinary, people don't think about price as much. And we always think of people talking about price. Ray?
Yeah, I agree with many of Nate's comments there. I mean, we spend so much money on our brand as an organization, the visual elements of that brand. But we don't always think about how that brand then factors back into every function in the business. And that's the customer experience, starting back out with how you want people to think about your business, the value of your business, the feel that they might have emotionally for your business, and then how that can be reflected into that end-to-end engagement, right from the very start where they meet you, maybe it's on social media, right until they become an advocate of yours because you've done such a great job of delivering product or service to them, and they want to tell other people about it.
So I'm looking here, and I saw a lot of the badges, and we have people like from all around the world. It's so cool. That's part of what World Partner Conference is all about. But one of the issues is customer experience probably differs in different parts of the world. How do you handle that? That sounds like it's a big challenge.
It certainly is. We deal with a lot of English-speaking regions. And what you can't do is you can't take this cookie-cutter approach and just think that one size is going to fit all. I mean, it's always interesting to go to a trade show in England. Right there, people walk past the booth almost nervous of a sales guy jumping out and asking them a question. But when you're here in the US, people are coming up to the booth and saying, "What have you got to sell me?" So it's a different approach there. And we've had to localize that approach, really think about those particular markets in very different ways. We come out of South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa, also a completely different market. But it goes down to even the smallest things, like the way that you spell color. Who would think that it makes a big deal whether you put a U in color or not? But it does. If you're English, British, it makes a big deal to have the U there, and if you're American, to not have the U. So when you're thinking through that customer engagement, you definitely have to take into consideration those markets that you're addressing and the nuances of the markets.
Yeah, I remember I went to Japan, and as a gift I brought Swiss Army knives, and it was the coolest thing. And so I'm riding on the plane, and I start taking out like some cultural things, and it says, "Whatever you do not give knives." And I just said, I'm giving not one knife, I'm giving 250 knives. That was a lesson learned. I always now read before I get on the plane. So I had other gifts, but it didn't quite work out. So Nate, what about yourself in terms of localizing?
Sure. So we sell primarily in North America, but even the rules still apply in terms of how you approach verticals or even certain geographies to some degree. I think you'll hear a big theme throughout today's panel is this concept of listening and this concept of focusing your listening at a one-to-one level and learning from those conversations in aggregate. And then figuring out ways to sort of stay nimble within your marketing and your customer experience execution based on those learnings.
So one of the things is that people here are looking for what to really do in terms of marketing and what really works. So what is to success? What types of things should everybody, I asked everybody to get a pad out and start to write things down, right? So what are the things that they should be writing on their paper in terms of marketing success? How to assure that? What's your suggestions?
Sure. So you probably heard me say it in the video too, but the classics are still very much apply. Do your persona work. Know exactly who you're selling to. Figure out exactly what differentiates you from your competition out there. And I'll tell you, it's not always product. It's not always price. Sometimes it's strictly the charisma of your brand or even the charisma of you as an individual, and figure out ways to express that. For example, one of the people on our team is really kind of outgoing guy, sends goofy emails that you normally would look at and go, I don't know if you should be sending this to customers or whatnot. But he includes his LinkedIn photo and his kind of personal taglines and that kind of stuff. Really great for retention, really great for experience. Everyone loves working with Patrick, right? So figure out what it is and embrace it and differentiate yourself that way. The other thing that I would say is as you map out your ideal customer experience and customer journey and think about the content that you're going to lay in there and whatnot. Stay open to listening and feedback and seek out that feedback at every stage. For us, we're a pretty early stage company, really just been in operation for a couple of years now. And you start out with a plan. Don't jump straight into tactics, have a plan, right? And you will find that you will build the perfect website and write the perfect white papers and put together the best nurturing newsletters in the world, and you are correct 75% of the time. And it hurts and it's frustrating because you poured your heart and soul into it. And for that matter, if you're a small business yourself and operating with lean resources, you really kind of wanted to be done with those things and move on to other parts of your business. The businesses that do really well with the customer experience learn about what that 25% isn't working, aren't too prideful to not kill it off, and keep iterating from there.
So you think the customer experience should be part of your strategy? It should be
Oh,
part of
yeah,
your
by
overall
definition.
strategy.
Get as much feedback early and often as you can, and really, bring it in and reflect on it. Have your team reflect on it and contribute to it.
Okay, and Ray?
I totally agree with that. We were a small company entering into a very competitive market. There were some pretty big players that were doing things like proposal management software. And when we looked at our product that we had and compared that to what they were offering, we had some product-based advantages. But really, the best way that we could compete with them was going to be differentiating ourselves through that end-to-end customer engagement. They were so big, they didn't pay as much attention to the voice of the customer coming back at them. And so by listening really carefully to what those customers want, it helped us to just tweak a few levers right through the marketing experience, right from the start, also into the way that we deployed that software and the amount of attention that we gave to our customers when deploying. And that resulted in advocates, people who were passionate about our software, but actually about us as a company, who were prepared to stand up in front of an audience and say, we back Qorus software.
I love that. So how do you get those advocates, those people that are raging fans? I mean, that's what I guess they're called. And it's something that and also, how do you have a system, a process for actually capturing that information?
Yeah, we do have a system that does it. We actually map the life cycle of each customer into various stages. And one of those stages would be the final one, which is an advocate, somebody that's there. And we want to bridge them from being just a customer who's bought our software to someone that's prepared to talk about us. Obviously, going through an experience where that customer is having the value of what you're delivering very apparent, where you've made a massive difference to them, and then convincing them that they need to share that. They need to do a case study. They need to do some kind of press with you. That slowly converts them. And what happens then is that they almost become a subject matter expert to their peers, who then start calling into them to say, well, tell us about your experience and what have you done? And they go back to that.
Yeah, what's kind of cool is sometimes you ask people for a case study or a testimonial, and you think you're asking something of somebody, but when they end up doing it, and they become, it's almost like a method to become a raging fan. They do that, they write the testimonial, they give the quotes. It's perfect. It's something to definitely having advocacy is extremely important to everything that we do. One of the things that we have to do is we have to have credibility in what we're doing with our prospects, with our clients. And one of the ways to do that is to have those case studies and to have those testimonials, making sure that they're on your website. So, and Nate, you were
Yeah, asking for advocacy is not always comfortable on the front end. It never ceases to amaze me the value of building that into your processes. People love being asked. Don't underestimate that, right? So you kind of get this nice halo effect of like, wow, this company really cares about my opinion and asks for the good, the bad, and the ugly back. And if you're open-minded about it, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly back, and you can build from it. I was checking my email 2 seconds before we jumped up here.
I thought you were checking it here.
I
figured, we're talking.
We actually have in our processes here, after most every kind of standard conversation, meaningful conversations, what I like to call them. So it could be a demo, it could be an onboarding experience. We actually document direct verbatims back from each step of it and share it with the team. So you talked about mapping with it. We kind of like to get the quantitative with the qualitative back. It's a great way to get the customer quotes, but then you can also really track sort of what processes are working well anecdotally as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
So I actually want to go with something that you said before. Automational sounds like an incredible product, by the way, really, and something that everybody should check into. The question I have is, what do you need to do in order to ensure that somebody is successful with marketing at Automational? What have you done?
Sure. So I mentioned before, kind of find what your differentiator is going to be and go hammer it. For us, it's actually, I suppose it is a little bit cliched to your point, but we really focused on the team and building the brand and the image of the team behind the product. It's a marketing automation product for a small business. We're a small business. So as we set out to be built it, we built it so that we would be customer number one, so that we could kind of live in their shoes. It's kind of a personal point of pride to me too, is that we use our own product to market ourselves. If I was in some other category, I don't know that I would get to do that. So that's a lot of fun. But we actually, like, all the way down to our hiring practices, try to live this. So we hire people who are entrepreneurs and coming from small businesses themselves, or maybe even have their own side business, so that by the time they are communicating with a prospect in any sort of environment, they can sort of answer questions of like, well, what we do at Automational is we do X, Y, and Z. And that passion comes through because they've been there. They may still be there, based on their side job. So for us, we really kind of leverage that at a one-to-one relationship. But then we bring that forward into our content and the way we email to our prospects. We, little things like we include our picture and quotes, and any way we can make it personal or make it feel as personal, as detailed as possible. That's sort of where we lean on. And what's interesting about it is, for us being a technology company, we get a lot of rave reviews for our technology. We get a lot of rave reviews for our team, which is great. It's even better, I suppose, as a marketer when we get rave reviews from people who we actually never spoke to. It's very possible for you to come and sign up off our website and do a free trial and become a paying customer and never actually speak to anyone. And then they go and write reviews going, the team at Automational is fantastic. Their support is great. Never actually talked to them, but you can tell that the brand is coming through and they feel like someone is behind there and willing to help them get on board.
Great. So we always hear, Ray, about this customer journey.
Yeah.
Everybody's heard about the customer journey. It's actually, for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been in everything, all the publications about marketing. So you have your customer journey. Can you, since we're here to talk about the customer experience, can you align the customer experience with the customer journey? I think that would be very helpful because folks are trying to sort of understand, how to actually implement it, and I think that's the way to do it.
Well, what we found effective is to make it really personal. All right. So at the start of mapping both customer experience and journey, get down to a persona level and understand the audience that you're looking to create this experience or this journey for. Understand what's important to them. So for us, we do a lot with proposal writers and bid managers. And we've created this character in our business, and her name is Bid Manager Bev.
What's that again?
Bid Manager Bev.
Can you say that 3 times faster?
I can. Maybe not later on tonight, but I can right now.
We're going to have, after a couple of vodkas, no doubt. Okay.
Yeah, so Bid Manager Bev is a person. We've got a picture for Bid Manager Bev, and we know, her personality traits, her challenges, what she's looking for. We know what kind of experience we want her to have when she engages with us. And then we map that down to the journey. So the experience is how she thinks about us, how she feels about us, the challenges that she's going to deal with. But then how do we take her through that process, really, of having that experience, right from the very start, through the various marketing steps, nurturing, through the sales process, through the buy process, implementation, and then, as we've discussed, onto the advocacy. But it starts with the feeling. It starts with the personal understanding of that buyer. That creates the experience, and then mapping the process behind that to drive that ultimate experience.
See, I love that. And so one of the things that, this whole idea of persona is not a easy type of idea, and it takes some getting used to, because you have ways of looking at your target marketplace, but this is a little bit different. Can you get into a little bit more detail on how Bivy, Biv, Buv, Biv, Buv, Buv? Okay, sorry, I'm like
Bid Manager Biv.
Okay, I'll get that.
You're gonna get it, Eric. You're gonna get
You remember the first most important thing is marketing is be able to remember everything. So I'm not doing very well with that.
Well, you know what? It's actually quite challenging because we don't want to put people in boxes. I mean, it goes against society today to stereotype somebody and to say you are going to be like that. But ironically, when you look at these people that are engaging with you, they do roughly fall into a box. And you need to be bold enough to say, well, this is going to be a middle-aged woman with a college education, probably going to have a family. These are the brands that she's probably going to like and associate with. These are the things that are going to be important to her. All right? These are the events that she's going to attend. And these are the challenges that she's going to have in her life. So take Bid Manager Bev. All right? She's a mom in her middle ages. She wants to get home to her kids. She does not want to be spending the day writing RFP responses and sales proposals. And if there's a time issue there, that's really important to Bid Manager Bev. And so we can come with a value proposition point that slots right in there. Say, Bid Manager Bev, we're saving you time in the production of proposals and the responses to RFPs. We're making you more efficient so you don't have to do overtime. And that resonates with Bid Manager Bev. It really makes sense to her.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is absolutely fantastic. Nate, do you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I would just say I think the most constructive way to think about the customer journey is to kind of follow the classic model of, figure out, what content and messages resonate at each step. I will say from personal experience, resist the urge because it's going to feel very natural to think about the transitions between those steps and what you want them to do, but actually don't think about what you want them to do. It's really easy to fall into that trap. I want you to download this white paper, and then I want you to watch this video, and by then you're going to be ready to fill out a form. Really, you have to adopt the mindset of what are the 2 or 3 things after each step that I think you're going to want to do. For some people, they think of the customer journey as, from lead to close, as a funnel. Some people think of it as a cycle. I'm coming around to this idea that it feels like a cocktail shaker, that your prospects and your customers are coming in at the top, and then they're coming in and they're consuming content and giving feedback, but they're all sort of pinging around in their own order. And we see it today. Where some people come to our website and you can see them get deeper and deeper and deeper into the content before they raise their hand and go, I'm ready for a demo. We have some people who come screaming in off a pay-per-click ad and sign up for a free trial and go crazy in the free trial for 6-7 days and then raise their hand and go, all right, I'd love to talk to somebody and figure out what it is I just got myself into here. And so really as a marketer, you really have to adopt this mindset of how do I just enable this pinging motion? And for me, that's really back to the customer experience piece. That's about being proactive. That's about every time you do something that I can document and track, and maybe automate on the back end, giving you 2 to 3 things that I think would be relevant based off what you just did. One that may be more traditionally up funnel, one that may be down funnel, and one that may just be where you are. But trying to sort of create that mindset is a challenge, but it's something that we found particularly rewarding.
I know there are ISVs in the room. This whole idea of offering demos, is that effective for Automational?
It's very effective. I think part of it is back to the whole people thing. We've had a lot of success with the people and putting our team forward as part of this sales process. I won't necessarily share specific numbers, but what I can tell you is a demo that occurs within the sales process versus going around a demo and doing a free trial, our close rates and our success rates are much, much higher. People, even if they don't want to say it, often want to have a personal connection to what they're buying. I think for us, for small business, even more so. By definition, they're kind of strapped for time and resources, and they need that confidence built, whether they'll articulate it or not. And developing a relationship with Crazy Patrick is sometimes the most effective way of delivering that.
How does it work, of course?
Yeah, it works exceptionally well. It's really part of that customer experience because while you could deliver that entire video online, by actually having a human engaging with a team on the other end of the line, creates that feeling and that thought process there. And so we found it very effective not to just pump out video content, which we do. Yep. We do have video content, but to actually have our sales team deliver a personalized demonstration where they've had the opportunity to find out a little bit of what is important to you, and then to tailor that presentation, that demonstration, to those key pain points for you as a customer.
And I would just say, back in the spirit of the customer experience of all this, you brought up demos. We typically actually, if someone reaches that relevant point in the process, we'll actually ask, how do you want to learn next? Do you want a demo?
Oh, wow.
Do you want to watch a video, or do you want to attend a group webinar? And similar content all three ways, and we've been able to kind of do all three of them at scale. But just asking and giving them those three paths has been really successful for us.
That's great. So how do you keep everything consistent? You have all these different customers, all these different, I'm going to use your word, personas.
Right.
How do you keep things consistent among everybody?
Well, the role of marketing is a critical one in our organization. We've got a senior vice president of marketing, and she's really mandated with owning the customer experience end to end. Obviously, she focuses typically at the top end of the funnel as a starting point, but she's the one that decides or puts together the personas and then maps that journey through. And she's responsible for making sure that it actually takes place right to the end. Mm-hmm. But I think it starts right up at the very top with the shareholders, with the CEO, of making sure that it's well understood that a consistent customer experience is strategic to this business. Mm-hmm. And for everybody in the business, at all levels of the business, to understand that and to apply it. And the cliche is that marketing is everybody's responsibility. Mm-hmm. Well, it might be a KPI for the CMO, but ultimately, everybody needs to do it because they're all forming part of that journey and they're all creating ultimately that customer experience.
So I'm watching your videos and they're incredible, but one thing I can see is a lot of smiling faces in your organization. I mean, people are they're having fun in both of your companies. How important is having good people, having a good time, loving their jobs? Because I'm going to tell you something, most people that I know don't really love their jobs. They go in and they're earning the paycheck. I'm looking at both of your companies, and I'm seeing really happy people. So how does that translate into a customer, into having, Nate, an exceptional customer experience?
Sure. So, I mentioned before, it starts all the way down for us, down to hiring. I'm looking for folks who are entrepreneurial, who know it, get it, are advocates for marketing automation, and can speak from a level of transparency and authenticity. Mm-hmm. And so by definition, entrepreneurial folks like to wear lots of hats, like to solve lots of problems. So it actually, as a manager, kind of makes my job pretty easy. One of the things that could fall down quickly on an end-to-end customer experience is if you work with someone great on the front end, and then once you're handed off to your account management team, or even in the sales process. I think we may have all dealt with at some point in time with a great sales development rep, but by the time the account manager came in, it was like, oh, I kind of like Steve more than the new guy.
How do you do that? How do you ensure that consistency among people? What happens as a weak link in there? I'm sorry, I'm asking you all these questions. I'm sorry.
Well, we don't have weak links, but if we did,
weak links. I got that.
To me, part of it is just the level of empowerment and expectation setting, right? That it is their role individually to develop one-to-one relationships with the partners that they work with. They don't have a sea of partners, each one to work with. They actually have a smaller group to kind of cultivate with. And it all plays all the way through to what you would call our account manager role is actually, we call them marketing success managers. And we're really deliberate in that title because examples I've given to date have been kind of on the sales side. These are still small businesses who are coming to us who need best practice education around marketing as much as they need a technology solution that can really help with them. So the marketing success manager role, sure, they handle your billing and that kind of stuff, but they handle your onboarding and your best practice sharing piece of it. And those are, quite frankly, our friendliest and most advocacy-oriented folks. And for us, we've actually built that into the product for us where we don't charge extra for it. Everybody gets access to them, unlimited access. Because we know as we built this customer experience, people are going to ask these questions, and a knowledge-based article isn't going to cut it. when it comes to, well, tell me the 4 things I should be doing with my newsletter to make it more successful, because I'm going from 0 to 60 here on some of these tactics. So for us, it's about putting people in the roles, the right personalities in the roles, and empowering them to create one-to-one relationships.
Excellent. And,
Yeah.
smiling faces in your company
Smiling
also?
faces. I mean, we try really hard. But, for us, brand, customer engagement, and culture, kind of a trifecta that guide the whole selection process there. I think the third video that we ever produced in the business, we did 2 on our product, and the third one was about the people in the business, because we wanted anybody coming in to get a feel for who we are. It's one thing having a culture in the marketing team and a different culture in the delivery team. That's just not going to work. That's not going to create that unified customer experience. So right from the start, myself and my founder, co-founder that's sitting over there, we really highlighted the importance of understanding that culture and hiring against the culture and testing that. Even if the person was exceptionally skilled, test against the culture, and if they're not going to work, don't make the hire, because it's going to break that customer experience there. And then I think the other thing that we really like to do is hire diverse people, hire different people, hire the weirdos, because they add color, they add flavor, they make it an interesting place to work. If you're just hiring robots, it doesn't create that culture and that diversity there.
But I tell you, if my wife was in the audience right now, she'd be saying, we should talk. So yes, I've always been considered the weirdo, and it's actually fascinating that that those people just gravitate towards other people and create that customer experience. Doesn't have to be just a straight and narrow.
Yeah.
It could be something exceptional, can't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And those people that are diverse really bring that color into that end-to-end experience.
So brand is a big part of customer experience. How does your brand at Qorus, how does it reinforce the customer experience that you have?
Right at the outset, we decided what we wanted that brand to look like. We decided the elements of that brand, and not in the traditional textbook style. This is our vision, this is our mission, this is our value statement. We went for more of the feeling part of what that brand meant. What kind of emotional reaction does the way that we present ourselves create in people, and even the voice that we use in our marketing content? How does that make people feel about us? And then whenever we're doing things, it's testing against that.
Always testing against the brand.
Testing against the brand. Does this conform to the brand? Is it a slightly edgy voice that you want? Little bit of controversy there, or do you want to be a little bit more accepting or placating in terms of your voice? Test your content against that. Test your approach to customer success against that. All of those elements there get tested against that brand and then get filtered through.
So,
I think something that can't get lost through all of this is every single touch point, and every time someone thinks about your brand and your company is a touch point, right? I mean, it's everything from, is your brand mentioned, in a study, to the billing statements that you send out to your customers. And so, marketing within an organization is sort of uniquely positioned to influence all of those things. And so, a lot of progressive organizations have started calling, instead of the CMO, they're calling them the Chief Experience Officer, because they have an opportunity to influence what the billing statement may look like, and does it have a message, down on the bottom of it, and that sort of thing. And so, to your previous question about sort of smiling faces, inviting the organization, working with the organization, even people in roles who wouldn't normally think of themselves as customer-facing or even affecting the customer experience, it's a great way for employee engagement. It's also, as I would think about this group, when you go back and look at it, I assure you are having touch points with your customers that you don't think about as being part of the cumulative experience. I assure you your customers are thinking about them as part of the cumulative experience.
What's kind of cool is that a company I was CEO with before this company, we used to, as part of the interview, we used to have the person who sat at the front desk actually be part of the interviewing process.
Yeah.
Because it was all part of getting that person to see how that person treats other people.
Yeah.
and that person that's at the front desk, answer your phone, greeting people,
Yep.
are all people that are giving, are communicating
Yeah.
the customer experience. So it's cool.
And I would just say from personal experience too that you shouldn't underestimate the impact of this. When we get down into pure sales situations and we're talking about why'd you go with us versus a competitor in a technology space, and very often I think we find that it can come down to price or a specific feature set or something like that. I will say we win a lot of deals because they're like, oh, we just liked working with you. Other people would send us 3 videos and go, let me know what you think, and here's how you order from us, and I'm out.
So there's a person sitting on my left who hasn't really said too much. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
Hi. So Jennifer, like I said in the beginning, is from Microsoft. And is it okay if I ask you a couple of questions?
Of course.
Okay. So that's what you're here for, right? Right. So the customer experience seems key to Microsoft's strategy. So what is Microsoft doing, especially in the online and digital, because cloud is so important to us? What are they doing in order to facilitate the customer experience? And what sorts of things are you doing to help partners with it?
Oh, you've got to get straight to the bottom line, huh?
I really am, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, so as you know, we have many touch points with customers and partners. So WPC, your illustration of WPC is a great one. What I can talk about online is that we are actually on a journey there. And I think what you've heard from these folks is ahead of where we are as a company. And I can give you some examples. So on office.microsoft.com as an example, for the past 3.5 to 4 years, we've been working on the post-sale experience. So we have many people that have purchased Office over the course of time, working on getting those people back, cross-selling, upselling to other products we have. In our team that works on Azure, we're spending a lot of time in the pre-sales area, monetizing and cross-selling there. And so the teams are kind of sharing knowledge about what we're doing with our customer journey and the personas and the journey that they make from one product to another. But we're learning as we go. We've recently installed marketing automation software, doing lead nurture, drip marketing, all of that stuff. So it may come as news to you that we're sort of new to this whole thing. But I have the privilege of working with partners like these that are kind of ahead of the curve and more sophisticated. And as far as what are we doing with all of this, so we don't really have a lack of leads or prospects coming into Microsoft.com. It's one of the most visited sites in the world, so millions and millions of visitors. And I think our big issue really is what do we do with those leads? So now we're finally seeing who these people are, what they're coming in to do, what they need to do, and we're testing that against content. So we try webinar content, white paper, gated content, demos, all of the stuff you've heard here today. And our goal is to kind of qualify these folks further along and then take them and pass them on to you all to finish off this service and solution sale. So we're going to get smarter. As these folks have said, the marketing tends to go a lot further along in the sales process than it used to. And so we're going to help get them there and pass off really quality leads to you folks to then carry through. So I think it's really good news that we're paying attention and wiring this up. And you all should feel some benefit from it here as we move forward. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So just as sort of as a last point, so one of the things I promised is that people are going to take things home with them. Mm-hmm. What are the actionable steps? Sometimes the first step is the toughest step. I know it's a cliche, definitely a cliche. So what are the steps that people should take in order to, if they don't have customer experience as part of their strategy, that they need to do in order to make customer experience an important part of their strategy? Why don't you start, Ray?
I would say start with thinking about it like this. If someone was going to write a review on Capterra or on G2 Crowd, what would you want them to say about your business? What would you want them to highlight as your strong values and the way that they feel, the experience that they had? And if you can map that out, that starts to tell you what your customer experience is, what you desire that experience to be. Take that, make it personal, map it down to the buyer. Don't do too many buyers because you might have a product that's very broadly applicable. If you go too broad, you're going to lose out. Map it down to specific buyers, get stereotyped, and then build a journey for that particular buyer. How would you like them to interact with your business all the way through until they're an actual advocate for that?
Do you believe in like cross-functional teams? Is this the CEO's job, or is this getting?
I think the CEO needs to champion this without question of a doubt. Has to start up there. but it is cross-functional. It requires all the major functions in the team to kind of filter back up to that overall brand, to that overall customer experience statement, and for each of them to apply it. And then, depending on how technical you want to be or how big your business is, set up the service levels between the departments that speak to that customer engagement. How does sales and marketing deal with each other? How does sales hand off to delivery? What does that look like so that you protect that customer experience all the way through that journey?
I love it. Thank you. Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything you just said. I would add the layer on there of be sure you are proactively listening to all the stakeholders, including your prospects and customers. Survey, ask for feedback, interview, all of the above. The plan that you build that you just described will never be 100%, but if you can get it better than 80% through constant iteration, that's your key to winning. I'll give you a really specific one. It comes down to marketing, which is don't fall into the trap of assuming that you are marketing to people exactly like yourself. We have great track record as a tactic. You can write this one down as a tactic.
I hope everybody's writing that down because that is such an important point. We always are thinking about ourselves because that's natural, right?
Right. Well, we have as a tactic in our funnel webinars. Me personally, you couldn't get me to attend a webinar. I will read white papers till 4 in the morning and blog posts and watch videos. I'm like, oh, webinars. It is, if not number one, our number 2 most successful tactic during that process. And we would be missing out if we were, if you adopted the mindset of like, no one watches webinars. Let's just make videos and distribute those everywhere. Each tactic has its pros and its cons throughout the channel. Experiment with them. Do more of what works. Sounds obvious. Do more of what works. Don't have so much pride that you can't kill off what's not working. And I will tell you, try to work a webinar in the mix.
So let's open up to audience questions. Just realize what you have here is you have folks that are living the customer experience, and also with Jennifer, Microsoft's direction with the customer experience, which is, as Jennifer said, rather new. So let's open up questions. Yes.
Yeah, so for us, it's actually all the above. So during the sales process, when it's a very kind of one-to-one piece, there's expectations of our marketing team and our sales team as they get feedback to document and share. As people move into the onboarding phase and then even the 90 days after implementation phase, that's when we move into more of a systemic survey process. Just because people are kind of off and running at that point. But back to the journey mapping, we have sort of expectations of our team and automated processes built into the back end of it. But it's one-to-one whenever we can do that at scale. And then surveys typically as they go on being a customer of ours.
I think another really interesting feedback loop is social media.
Yes.
You have the opportunity to engage on social media. So you're putting out a piece of content, you're putting out a piece of advice out there. Somebody's going to comment on that. And by carefully listening to what's coming back, be it through LinkedIn, be it through Twitter, you can start to get a picture of what's important to them, what's controversial, and how you need to be adjusting and listening. And then, as Nate said, you have to be humble because sometimes you think this is the right stuff that I should be pushing out there. But that feedback loop that you're getting, whether it be through any one of those channels, you really have to listen and make those adjustments and those pivots.
The relationship with social media is really interesting here. I think the discipline of thinking about the customer experience sort of parallels with the rise of social media. Because now all of a sudden there's new ways to get this feedback, whether directly or now you can at least see how people are talking about you and your brands. And I think for the first couple of years, marketers pulled their hair out going like, oh my gosh, we don't control our brands anymore and how people are talking about us. When in actuality, we never controlled our brands. People always talked about us. It was just around the kitchen table and their neighbors. And now, as marketers, we have the luxury of actually seeing what does the world really think about our business. So that's a really great point to take advantage of.
We have another question.
I think it's fair to say that your customer experience within your companies is based on your own attitude towards customers, being very customer focused. measures that you use to get your teams to buy into your ethos? And how do you still apply that today, given that the company has grown and you have less direct control over the people that you work with?
So, for us, it started out on the delivery side with us actually implementing a team of people called customer success managers, particularly from a delivery perspective. And for them to actually build a methodology around what success meant. And for that methodology, just like you would implement Agile or Scrum or some kind of other methodology, to be something that's repeatable, that's trainable, and that can be replicated globally throughout the teams. And we've done that. And so as we've scaled and as we've grown, that methodology just wraps around and it continues to be the basis of training up those new people. But it does also come down to that cultural element. And the cultural element starts, as I've mentioned, right at the top there. And the culture will be felt through the leadership of the business. And if that leadership always puts the customer at the front, then anybody that's joining, anybody that's coming into that culture is going to adopt that same kind of mentality.
Yeah, and I would just say for us, that was part of our culture from day one. As I alluded, we built a product knowing we would be customer number one, and we hired and purposely built the team. As we've grown, we found ways to sort of replicate that one-to-one experience at scale. I mentioned webinars and content and that sort of thing. And processes along the way for data capture and feedback capture. And the best way I can describe it is sort of as we wean off everybody getting full one-to-one treatment all the way through. I mean, we're fairly low price point product, so at some point in time, you can't hire 1 million people to do this. We just sort of find marketing content ways more than anything to try to replicate it. And then we sort of, I liken it to when you first hang a picture on the wall and you kind of back off and you go, okay, customers are still coming through, and we just found a more efficient way to deliver that experience, and it's authentic. That's where we kind of push today.
So how do you measure this then? I mean, it's off of the question there. How do you measure the customer experience?
We do a health check with our clients. Mm-hmm. We do quarterly health checks with some of the key clients and biannual health checks with other clients that are maybe a little bit smaller. And we have a whole series of questions that we ask them when we go through those health checks. Everything ranging from product-based questions to thought leadership type questions to support questions, basically covering the full ambit of the business there. And we elicit that. We compile that feedback together, and then we get a view based on the feedback from those various customers. When you're going through that health check, it's also important to compare that back to your original persona, because they're going to have different things that, even after they've started using your software, that are going to be important or not important to them. But our head of implementation has KPIs around those health checks to say we need a certain number of those health checks being positive in these key areas there. And so they drive hard to get to that particular point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would just add to that, we do our own measurement around customer experience type metrics. You also see it in your classic metrics. Your close rate, your onboarding rate, your retention rate. Yeah. And I can tell you, if we have a deficiency in any area, I can almost guarantee you it's because somehow that customer came in and bypassed all of our best efforts to create that customer experience and jumped straight into being a customer. And we're like, oh, well, that's what happened.
We have time for one more question.
Yeah.
During your sales process, we don't always deal with the same individuals, maybe the owners, maybe users, maybe financial officers. Do you have multiple persona, and does your sales process changes depending with whom you're dealing with?
Good question. That's a great question. And things have definitely changed over the years. It used to be that there was one decision maker. Now it's decision by committee, and you need to be able to deal with all those various areas. To be honest with you, we highlight the main buyer persona. So that's the person that we're ideally going after, the decision maker or the strong influencer. We may do a small amount of work on the other buyers or other people as part of that buying community, but definitely not as much of an in-depth analysis there. But I think it is a very important point that you raised, that you cannot just think of the one person in the sales cycle. You have to think of the multiple members of that community that are going to influence that sale, and be aware of your value points to those individuals in that process.
Nate?
Yeah, I mean, our world is probably a little bit smaller in the sense that typically if someone is buying direct, the majority of our business either comes from inbound leads or through a channel partner. If they're buying direct, there's typically only one persona involved there. But if there's a partner relationship and an end user relationship, those are two very different motivations, so to speak, and personas there. And so we do very much cater the messaging and the approach and the content to do very different tracks.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Jennifer, do you want to have a final word?
Sure, yeah.
We're leaving the final word to Microsoft.
Well, first of all, thank you to you guys. I think this was really great. And my whole job at Microsoft is to work with partners on their marketing, but also pair up people that are sophisticated marketers and have you all learn from each other, basically businesses that look like you. So I hope you guys got some value out of that. And what I would say after working with our channel, I just would reinforce the fundamentals about it. Like marketing, there's a lot of digital things and new technologies that have come along that make it seem more complicated, but you got to get the basics right. So partners that I see that have strong value propositions that have done the work to figure out who they are, how they stand apart from the competition, who their customers are, what verticals they're in, really get focused and really figure out who you are before you put the message out there, really tend to do the best. And so I would just go back to fundamentals, and then there's obviously lots of technology and lots of other things that you can try to kind of augment your marketing. But if you guys have any questions, I know these guys will stick around for a little bit, and thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thank you very much, and it's been our pleasure. Thank you, guys. Oh, my pleasure.